Welcome into week 13. We're taking a look at the players you need to be starting or the sleepers that you're not quite sure about. This is going to be a very different week. It's Thanksgiving and Black Friday week, so that means we've got games a little bit earlier. Lots of games in the Thursday and Friday slate. And Dave, what we are going to do today is, we talked about this prior to the show. It felt kind of irresponsible on a Wednesday to talk about players that are playing on Sunday, right? Like, it's just, there's so many things that can happen, injuries, whatever it may be. We're going to focus primarily on the Thursday and Friday starts. But we're going to do this the same way. Go through our tiers, go through our rankings, and talk about some of the players that we like the most.
And I will say, like, compared to previous weeks, this week doesn't seem quite as crazy. Like, it feels like every single week we record on Wednesday morning, episode comes out, and then I'm in the YouTube comments saying, hey, disregard this whole thing, or hey, we found out that this is going to happen, or hey, this player's going to be out. It does seem like for the most part we kind of know. Like, sounds like Drake London isn't going to play. Sounds like Brian Thomas Jr. is returning. Sounds like Isaiah Pacheco is coming back. Bucky Irving is coming back. I think the major question we have right now is probably Omarion Hampton. We don't know if he's returning or not. He's back in practice, hoping to play. Ashton Jinty is another one that we are expecting not to play. So we've got a handful of pieces here that we don't really have a clear read on. But for the most part, this seems like a relatively calm week injury-wise.
I'll say this, the only thing that we do know about the NFL. Yeah, I'm about to say, the only thing we do know about the NFL is that we know absolutely nothing at all.
Right.
Because every time we think we know something, it just gets totally twisted up on us. And they drop the Uno reverse card. Sorry, that's not the guy to start this week. So let's do this. Let's go through our tiers here. We did the same thing as always. We put our consensus rankings together for running backs and wide receivers. We're going to run through these. It'll probably end up being a shorter show because not as many players to talk about. But let's do this, Dave. Let's start with tier number 1 for the running backs. It's going to be running backs 1 through 8. Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane, Bijan Robinson, James Cook, Derrick Henry, and Chase Brown. Now, you and I both have Chase Brown a little bit higher than Football Guys consensus, actually, but I was happy to see you were one of the other people that are high on Chase Brown. We both have, I have him as my running back 8. You have him as the running back 7. So I like the matchup for him.
Yeah, I think the matchup is really good, but more than anything is just that we're seeing Chase Brown back to the player that he was last year and the player that we had hopes he would be when we drafted him. And I've said this multiple times this season on this show and on other shows. Whatever happened that month with Jake Browning, that wasn't real football. We don't have to take anything away from that. We don't have to add that to our samples. Like, that was just fake football that was really not fun to watch. And I don't think you can draw any real conclusions from there. But if you look over the 6 games with Joe Flacco, Chase Brown, he's been pretty darn good. I was looking on Fantasy Points data suite the other day. He has 72.3% of his team's rushing attempts. That is the second highest rate in the league behind only Jonathan Taylor. He has a 17.6% target share. That is the 4th highest rate, trailing just Devon Achane, Christian McCaffrey, and Jahmyr Gibbs. And the other thing is we're seeing the big plays. So the first 5 weeks of the season, he had 1 play of 10 plus yards. Over the last 6 games, he has had 14 plays of 10 plus yards. So the opportunity is there. The efficiency is bouncing back. We talk so much, Alfredo, about early season biases. Like, whatever happens in the first few weeks, people just cling on to as truth for the rest of the season. And I think that a lot of people are saying Chase Brown was horribly inefficient. The offensive line sucks. The Bengals are terrible. And they're holding on to this idea that Chase Brown is now like this back end or running back 2, when the reality is over the last month and a half, he's been a top 5 running back. And this is exactly what we had hoped for.
Yeah, I mean, so Chase Brown, last couple of weeks, running back 15 and running back 12 in PPR. It's over 200 rushing yards combined across those games. Now he goes up against the Ravens, 4th fewest fantasy points to running backs of the last 4 games. But this is a game where there's going to be a little bit more passing than normal, probably. It's going to be a shootout back and forth. I know that these AFC North battles do tend to be a little sloppy. I got to imagine this is one where secondaries aren't great for either team, especially for the Bengals. It can be a get-right game for Lamar. You got Joe Burrow back in there. Also, no T. Higgins. I'm expecting a little bit more of those dump-off passes to Chase Brown. Same thing we kind of talked about last week. So we've seen a surge in receiving work. We've seen a surge in rushing work and efficiency for him. Chase Brown, it's hard to not have him in the top 10 this week. So if you had any kind of, worry about Chase Brown, I'm good with him exactly where he is. And same thing for Derrick Henry. Like, I just think that these are players, don't overthink it. Don't get cute with it. I know it's Thanksgiving and it's a short week and things are weird. Just don't get cute with these guys.
And this is the thing, these Thanksgiving games typically do tend to be a little bit frustrating and low scoring just because the short week, the holiday, people are already daydreaming about turkey with their family after the game and whatnot. But what can you live with? Like, if you have Chase Brown on your bench and he goes for 35 points, you don't want to be looking at that until like between Thursday and Sunday. So I'm not really factoring it in too much. And I know a lot of people do. And they say, I want to give pause to these guys playing on Thanksgiving and Friday. I'm still just ranking it as is, not putting too much consideration into the schedule.
Is it just me, or I feel like deep in my memory bank here, core memories, running backs always have these monster games on Thanksgiving. It feels like every time we get towards the holidays, we've got Thanksgiving, we got Christmas, you got the Salvation Army bucket down there by the end zone. It's consistently like 2 touchdown games for running backs. Even though these aren't high scoring games, we get major running back. Am I going crazy? Like, is that? I
No,
don't have data.
no,
I don't have
no,
data.
you are.
It's all my brain.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can like something in my mind tells me that Marion Barber had a huge Thanksgiving game, and maybe I'm just
Yeah,
like
he did.
completely
Yeah, he did.
imagining that. But yeah,
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm not going crazy here.
that's where
All
I
right.
go
Let's
back.
go to
Marion Barber, what a fun player.
good times, man. Now we're just dudes naming dudes. That's what football is. All
Cordell
right.
Stewart.
We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going. All right. Let's Max Strong fullbacks. That's right. Let's go to tier number 2 here, where we start with running back 9 all the way through 19. We've got Saquon Barkley, Trevion Henderson, Kyron Williams, Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, Brees Hall, Javonte Williams, Omarion Hampton. We are treating him as if he is playing and starting. Rico Dowdle at 17, Bucky Irving, same thing, treating him as if he is playing and starting. And then 19, Jalen Warren. Dave, from this group, who sticks out to you most?
Travion Henderson, and we're both ranking him as kind of a fringe RB1. I think people are so quick to point to the usage last week where Travion Henderson clearly outtouched and outplayed Ramondre Stevenson. I don't know. I don't want to like be the wet towel here, but it does, I wonder how much of Ramondre's limited usage was because he was coming back from an injury that put him out for almost a month. And we see this slow ramp up a lot of times when a player's coming back from turf toe. I still think you're starting Ramondre Stevenson as a plug and play, RB2 at best, but I do wonder a little bit what this offense might look like this week, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, as Ramondre Stevenson gets further removed from that toe injury. So I'm not saying to bench Travion Henderson by any means. I do think that the cat is out of the bag to some extent, but I think that as Ramondre Stevenson gets healthier, we could see that tighten up a little bit to more of like a 60-40, 70-30 type of split.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I think as long as
We're saying
Trevion,
nothing here. Like you're still
no,
starting him. I'm just saying it's something
yeah,
to be somewhat cautious of going forward. Like,
it's more of
I've seen
a
people
like
say like
setting
rest of season.
expectations.
Right. And I've seen like rest of season, people are saying Travion Henderson ahead of Omarion Hampton. I don't think I'm there because like Omarion Hampton isn't going to have somebody cutting into his workload where Travion Henderson might.
I'll say this: we don't know that. If we're gonna be honest, like we don't like we assume, right? But like this is also the Jim Harbaugh and, oh my gosh, I'm blanking, Greg Roman offense
Mhm.
where they do like to split things up a little bit. And now that they have Kamani Vidal, maybe they are going to try to keep their running back, their lead running back, a little bit healthier. We had to wait for an injury for Amari Hampton to really get his run as well. So I would say it's not. I don't think it's apples and oranges. I actually do think it's apples and apples right here for these guys. But I think Omarion Hampton has shown that he doesn't need as much passing work to be quite as valuable. But the Chargers offense just hasn't been as good as of late. Some of these teams are really cooling down. Another team that I want to talk about that's cooling down as well has been, or at least a part of this team that's been cooling down, is the Cowboys run game. Javonte Williams, Dave, is a guy that we have here in this second tier. He's our consensus running back 15. He plays Thursday against the Chiefs. This is a tough matchup. He has not been as good for fantasy as of lately. He's been outside of the top 24 in a couple of these games. Looking back, running back 31, running back 26, running back 20. This is not the same guy that we were getting really hyped up about earlier on in the season. A lot of that has been no touchdowns, but the
Right.
touches themselves have been there. He's averaging 22 to 25 touches per game. The volume is still there, which is why I think you and I both remain confident with him.
Yeah, and that's it. Like the volume is there, the efficiency is there. Just 3 straight games without a touchdown, and that causes people to panic. But we saw 22 touches last week. We saw 23 touches the week before. We saw 16 the week before. So I'm still treating Javonte Williams as a good running back and a good offense. And yeah, I mean, like if people are worried about the lack of touchdowns, those things typically do tend to regress. The one other guy I want to talk about in this tier,
Yep.
Alfredo, and we were
David.
very aggressively high on Rico Dowdle. Like as soon as
Mm.
we saw the flashes from Rico Dowdle, we were like, boom, it's there. Drop all your fab, get this guy in your lineup. Talking about all the historical comps, the things he had done that nobody else in NFL history have done. It was kind of weird last week to see Chuba Hubbard getting over 40% of the touches, like really pushing this to a committee split. And I think that, Rico Dowdle still passes with flying colors. If you're just looking at the eye test, he looks like the better player. But this is something that we did talk about a little bit when Chuba Hubbard was coming back from injury, is that it was a calf injury. It clearly zapped his explosiveness. We were saying, kind of like what we were just saying with Travion Henderson and Ramadre Stevenson, kind of a slow ramp up here. I do wonder if we are going to see this sort of 60-40 split going forward. I mean, last week was weird. Carolina just like entirely abandoned the run. We didn't see a whole lot there, but Chuba Hubbard very involved in the passing game. He looked like he had a little bit more juice than he's had over the last few weeks. So I still think you're starting Rico Dowdle as an RB2, but I think a lot of the over their skis takes where people were saying this was a top 5, top 8 plug and play running back going forward. Now I'm kind of looking at him more in that RB2 area.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in saying that he still looks better on film. I
Right.
think I don't want to overstate this either. Like, I still want to wait before making any big time judgment calls with him. Like, just because we have
Right.
the one game, this happens all the time where we have one off game with a player, even at running back, where they don't get the volume we like, and then they return back to it the very next week. The tough thing is that this is not a good week for that. They're going up against the Rams. Like, this is a very tough matchup. However, where Rico has been effective is in the passing game, 4 catches last week. So I think we're still going to see some of that there. You kind of have to hope he falls into the end zone, but it's honestly what stinks here with this is that like you can't even say what kind of Rico are we going to get this week. It's what kind of Bryce Young are we going to get, because
Yeah.
that is that's the whole crux of this offense.
Mhm. And we saw 4 touches for Chuba Hubbard, or I'm sorry, 4 receptions for Chuba Hubbard as well. So the passing down work is getting split a little bit. And again, like, don't hear what we're not saying. We're talking about the guys way up in our
Sure.
rankings. You're still starting these guys, but most weeks, we were looking at Rico Dowdle as a top 8 guy, top 10 at worst. And now this week, you've got him at RB 16. I have him at RB 19. We're basically just acknowledging that we saw Chuba Hubbard a little bit more involved last week than he has been since returning from injury and the tough matchup.
Last thing to talk about from this, and I know we kind of said we didn't want to have to speculate on these guys, but I just want to do it anyways for conversation's sake. Bucky Irving, if he's back as the starter, are you expecting the same thing as me, where I do expect Bucky to get the majority of the carries or touches, but I expect it to be more of like a 60-20-20 type deal, or however you want to split those up. Like, I don't see Bucky going back to being at a 75% work share like he was prior to the injury.
And I think he will be a month from now. Like,
Sure.
he's a guy that I've been trying to get while he's been injured, just hoping that he can get back to the Bucky Irving of old during the fantasy playoffs. But I think there will be a little bit of a ramp up here. Also, Alfredo, I'm sure you saw it, like the story about Bucky Irving, just
Yeah.
heartbreaking stuff. Like, this is a lot more than just an injury he's coming back from. Lost his grandmother and his brother recently, and it seems like he has kind of been masking some of those issues with just playing through football, and now he's facing the first major injury of his career dating back to high school. And I think just being away from the game weighed on him mentally a little bit. So regardless of what happens this week, like, just praying that Bucky Irving can get his mind right, because this is something you and I are both talk about. Mental health awareness, like, it's a very real thing, and he has been kind of open about his struggles mentally. So more than anything else, more than the production and the fantasy projections and all these sorts of things, just hoping that Bucky Irving can get his mind right and get back on track and feel healthy physically and mentally.
And I gotta say, man, I've seen the comments of people that are already dogging Bucky Irving for this kind of stuff. Don't be that person.
Yeah,
Don't
do
be
not.
that person, because we do not know what people go through. Remember that these are people, right? They're not just players; they are people, and we need to know, like, they are going through things off the field that we don't know about. We are not in their shoes. Like, let's just be humans. How about that?
Right.
Before we're fantasy football managers or analysts or anything, let's just be humans.
Yeah.
Can't please, please. All right, let's go to the next tier on here. And this is going to be our tier number 3, running backs 20 through 27. We got Quinshawn Judkins, RJ Harvey, Tyrone Tracy, Ken Walker III, Woody Marks, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, and Trey Benson. Dave, from this group, DeAndre Swift is the only one that's going to be playing in the early slate of games. Bears, Eagles, Friday. DeAndre
Revenge.
Swift. Sure. Yeah, revenge. Why not? But Swift's coming
DeAndre
off a
Swift revenge game. How fun. He gets 3 of those this year. Twice against the Lions and once against the Eagles.
We need to do that one day where we just make like the all like all revenge team circuit, whereas you just kind of create a starting lineup of it's okay. You got either Joe Flacco or Jameis at quarterback. You got
Seriously.
DeAndre Swift. What do you? Mac Hollins
Je-
can get in
Jeff
there.
Bell, he loves talking about revenge games, and it got to a point a couple of years ago where like every week he was like a revenge game for Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm like, I get it, Jeff. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick gets a revenge game every single time he steps on the
Right.
field.
Jeff's the guy who's like, yeah, it's the revenge game for Hunter Long. Get ready, everybody. What? But yeah, right, so my concern here is like DeAndre Swift. I, once again, we've talked about this with previous running backs like Rico Dowdle. Is you'll have the one game where you're just like, oh, that was ugly. It's about differentiating between what is just a one-off and what is the start of a trend, right? And so with DeAndre Swift, 15 yards on 8 carries last week, not great. No touchdowns in 3 straight games. Uh, we're starting to see snaps are deviating a little bit here and there. Like there's just enough things that do start to get me worried about DeAndre Swift. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but there's enough here that makes me say I don't know if I can trust him every week going forward.
I mean, Ben Johnson is true to his word. He said he is going to take a hot hand approach with this backfield. And every single week, we've seen like a drive going to Swift, a drive going to Monangai, whoever gets better in those first opening touches ends up getting the work in the second half. And this was the first time that we saw Monangai look better last week. And like I said, Ben Johnson, true to his word, that was kind of it for DeAndre Swift. Like he looked bad in the first couple of series and then didn't really see the ball for the rest of the game. So this is the frustrating thing with DeAndre Swift. You can have these big games. Like we saw it coming out of the bye where this guy was just consistently giving us 100 plus yards every single game. And now we're seeing common guys start to look a little bit better, getting a little bit more comfortable up to NFL speed. I don't think that this is going to happen every single week where common guy is going to outtouch DeAndre Swift, but it could happen on any given week, which means this guy, DeAndre Swift, we were looking at as like a top 15 running back, now kind of falls into this like really shaky floor back end RB2 area.
Would you say that both of them are sort of in flex consideration? Like DeAndre Swift probably low end RB2,
Yeah.
Monangai probably low end RB3, where you're just hoping for a touchdown there each week.
Absolutely. And that's what it is. I think, you know, DeAndre Swift gives you a slightly higher ceiling and a slightly higher floor, but we saw it flip last week. So for people who did start Monangai, you know, they were desperate and they had to put somebody in their flex spot. It wasn't that pretty. Like he didn't have any receptions, but he got in the end zone and 48 yards. And like that'll give you, you know, 10 plus PPR points and that'll play.
So Monangai, did you consider him a flex play this week going up against the Eagles
I think you've got to every single week, just because like
every
this,
week?
you know, it's the Jamal Williams of it. Like, might not be
Mm-hmm.
pretty, but he's got 2 touchdown upside on any given week. Like you see it once this Bears team gets inside the red zone, they have the 3rd lowest pass over expected rate. Like they are just going to run, 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 run until they get into the end zone, and they obviously very clearly prefer Monangai in that role over Swift.
You know, I said that this would be a shorter show, but it's really not turning out to be that because there's still enough guys to talk about.
One
Let's
other
go
guy I
down.
want to talk about in this tier too.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I don't want to,
Yeah. No.
hang on
Sure.
too much here.
Let's get a
Ty-
3-hour show. I'm in.
Tyrone Tracy, man.
Okay.
I think a lot of people are like knocking him right now. And I saw like I was way ahead of consensus in my rankings. Then I saw that you are just about there as well. Lack of touchdowns. And I think that that has made a lot of people think that this is like the Devin Singletary show in New York now. But the reality is, since Mike Kafka has taken over, Tyrone Tracy is averaging 17.9 expected points per game. He's handled 39 rushing attempts, 8 targets, 269 scrimmage yards over the last 2 weeks. This guy is quietly like getting kind of RB1 treatment and just hasn't scored touchdowns. So I don't think people are really privy to it yet, but he is 13th in the league in expected points over the last 2 weeks. He's a guy that I think that you can kind of confidently start as an RB2. And I see him in a lot of start sit discussions that he shouldn't be involved in. Like if he just had 1 touchdown over these last couple of weeks, we wouldn't be having any of these discussions, but the lack of touchdowns are really kind of clouding how awesome his workload has been.
But I mean, it's not even like he's been bad. He was running back 13 and running back 12 without touchdowns. What
Right.
he's doing is he's making plays in the open field. He's been catching
Mhm.
passes, being able to make big run after catch plays there. And like that's something we've already known that Tyrone Tracy can do. The
Right.
running is inconsistent, and that's to be expected with a team like the New York Giants. But last game we see a 70% snap share, right? Like
Mhm.
we're seeing more and more for Tyrone Tracy. So yeah, I think that's weird if people are going to have him ranked really low, Dave. Like, let me just double check our rankings because, yeah, like I've got him as my running back 24. You're a bit higher. You got him at running back 20. Like, he needs to be an RB2 week in and week out.
Yeah, completely agree.
All right, good. Same page. Glad we did that. Let's go. Next tier here. This is going to be tier number 4, starting from running back 28 through 35. Kenneth Gainwell, Devin Neal, Dave Montgomery, Kareem Hunt, Chris Rodriguez, Bashal Tutin, Isaiah Pacheco, and Ramondre Stevenson. This is where it gets fun, Dave. There's
Fun.
a million, sure, fun. Honestly, we say this a lot, and it always sounds like a cop out, but this feels so true. Running backs 28 through 35 to me are all the same person. I do not have like any big difference between any of them. Kenneth Gainwell might catch 6 passes for 60 yards. Chris Rodriguez might get 3 carries for a touchdown. These guys are pretty much all the same in terms of expectation for fantasy football.
I think Devin Neal is the one to me that kind of stands out, just like
Volume.
the mystery box. Like,
Sure.
he could be anything, even an
Even
RB3.
Devin Neal.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think there's intriguing upside here. And we talked about Devin Neal a little bit on the waiver wire show yesterday. Neither of us were like huge fans of the prospect, but we do see this a lot where these rookies come in late in the season with fresh legs and they get the opportunity and it ends up being huge down the stretch. I mean, we talked about it before. Zamir White and Ty Chandler, these years that they were league winners, they're not good running backs, but they were fresh and they got the opportunity at the end of the season. Sometimes that's all that really matters. So, I could sit here and pick nits in Devin Neal's profile, but I'm not going to do that. He's a volume based play on a bad offense, and there's a lot of red flags there, but that hasn't mattered historically for a lot of other running backs that have been in similar situations.
Some other guys that I want to take a look at here. Kareem Hunt. This is a guy that I think
Ugh.
people have been able to start every single week over the last few weeks here because there's been no Isaiah Pacheco. But with Pacheco back, now you've got Hunt, who's scored a touchdown in 4 straight games, and you've got a good matchup. Dallas allows the 6th most fantasy points to running backs. They've been a little bit better over the last month or so, allowing the 14th most fantasy points over the last 4 weeks. This becomes a very different player that you're looking at with Isaiah Pacheco back. I think you're just hoping for a touchdown, but you're not expecting the same kind of volume.
Yeah, and this is I don't know what to do with these Chiefs running backs. I think, this is very to me kind of similar to like a Zach Charbonnet, Ken Walker sort of thing,
Mhm.
except that
But
they
it's
don't
uglier.
have. Yeah, like in Seattle, there isn't a guy coming in and siphoning in 3 to 4 targets per game like they have with Brashard Smith. So, I mean, neither of these guys catch a ton of passes. It seems like Kareem Hunt is the preferred guy near the goal line. We don't know how Isaiah Pacheco is going to come back from this knee injury. Like, truth be told, he didn't look that good before the knee injury, and now if he's battling this, like, might look even worse. So, they're running backs on the Chiefs. It's a good offense. There could be scoring opportunities. I think they both just kind of fall into that RB3 bucket, but any hopes that one of them would run away with the job, I think those are starting to look pretty bleak.
And I think if anything, what they do is they each just kind of cancel out each other because Brashard Smith sort of has his role as to like what he does. It's not a big role, but he is the definitive pass catcher, move around the move around the formation guy. Whereas these guys sort of just eat away at each other, Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, and it's
Right.
super annoying. I wonder, Dave, because we've got them ranked so similarly. If you're looking at this week, Kareem Hunt or Kyle Monungai, where are you going here?
I prefer Kareem Hunt, I guess,
Right.
just because it's a better matchup, a better offense.
I've
But
got Kareem Hunt 2 spots higher than Monungai.
yeah, and I've got Kareem Hunt a few spots ahead of Monungai, and really like I'm a little bit lower on Monungai this week just because the Eagles have a really
Sure.
good front seven, especially like these touchdowns that we've seen Monungai punching in. They're going to be a little bit harder to come by this week. Like the Chiefs matchup a little bit more, but man, like you really don't want to be relying on these guys this week, and I know you probably are because that's where we are at this point in the season. There's been a lot of injuries, but yeah, I mean with Kareem Hunt, with Kyle Monungai, you're hoping they can fall into the end zone, and I think Kareem Hunt's probably more likely to do that.
All right, let's do the last tier here. Not much to talk about from this one, but 36 through 41. Zach Charbonnet, Kyle Monungai, Tyler Algier, Raheem Mostert, Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard. We've talked enough about Kyle Monungai, so I don't want to keep,
Yeah.
beating that drum. Raheem Mostert is the guy to talk about here because right now we're kind of assuming that Ashton Jincy doesn't play, but we still don't even have Raheem Mostert as an RB3. Are we Are we making a mistake, or is this just we're waiting to find out more information, or is this exactly where we see Raheem Mostert, like a player who's not who's a little past his prime on an offense that's not very good? Where are we at?
And I see that I'm like 35 spots higher on Zamir White than you are. I think that's my expectation, is that we're going to see like
Mhm.
an ugly mix of Raheem Mostert and Zamir White on a bad offense. We also don't know what this is going to look like without Chip Kelly. Like, I'm hoping that a new offensive coordinator is just going to say, "Hey, we got this guy Brock Bowers. Let's get the ball to him 20 times." And like, we don't even have to mess around with a run game here. But yeah, this offensive
Please,
line
Jack
is
Bash.
terrible. Like, we're looking at Ashton Jinty, like one of the best prospects to come into the league in the last decade, and he can't get anything going behind this offensive line. I don't have a lot of faith that Raheem Mostert and Zamir White will.
Same, same. All right, let's go on over to the wide receivers here, Dave. We're going to do our tier number one. This is wide receivers 1 through 10. There are 2 players from this tier that are going to be playing on Thursday. We have no advice for you on Rashee Rice and Jamar Chase. Start them.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
We did it. We'll see you next week. Adios. Let's go. Wide receivers 1 through 10 here. Rashee Rice, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, Amon St. Brown, George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, and Nico Collins. Dave, anyone here that you really want to talk about? I think these are all pretty straightforward. Just unless something crazy happens, you're starting them. I will say, I think it's incredibly interesting that we've got 2 Rams, we've got 2 Cowboys up in this game. Oh, I'm sorry. We do have more guys playing. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are also playing on
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, we
Yeah.
see this, like, these are consolidated offenses with good quarterbacks that really focus on their 2 top guys. I didn't check. Do you have a CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens? All right. Yeah, you still got
Taking a
CeeDee
look.
Lamb a
I
spot
got
ahead of
Lamb
George
1 spot
Pickens.
ahead. I don't
I've
feel
got
great
Pickens.
about it. This
Yeah,
is sort
it's
of me
wild, man.
being the old man that's like no, VHS is better than digital. Like that's just kind of where I'm at. Not I can't believe I just compared CD Lamb to VHS. Like it's not even the
Yeah,
same. This is more of just like I know what I've seen throughout their careers, and I'm just
right.
1 spot of difference isn't really
Oh, of
making
course.
or breaking it.
Yeah, I'm just making a stance here with mine. Like, it doesn't mean
Sure,
anything. You're starting CeeDee Lamb, you're starting George Pickens, but my goodness, George Pickens has been really good. He was the wide receiver 2 without CeeDee Lamb. He's been the wide receiver 5 with CeeDee Lamb. Like, I was totally wrong. When CeeDee Lamb came back, I dropped George Pickens like 15 spots in my rest of
same.
season rankings. I'm like, that was a fun month. Now back to the CeeDee Lamb show, and George Pickens has just outscored him over the last 5 weeks. I mean, it is unbelievable what's happening in Dallas, but we can't ignore it. At a certain point, you are what your fantasy production says you are. We are 12 weeks into the season, and George Pickens is the wide receiver 2 in fantasy.
I mean, Davey said nine targets or more in 4 straight games. Like we talked about this in previous episodes. Like there is something that goes with chemistry when you have a wide
Mhm.
receiver and quarterback that have chemistry, that they are able to trust each other. They know exactly when to look for the ball. The quarterback knows exactly when to throw it out of a route. These things do take time, but once that timing is there, and yes, George Pickens, whether you want to believe it or not, is a timing player. It's there now. It's there now. So you've got this actually. Who's the better trio between Dak, Pickens, Lamb versus Burrow, Chase, and Higgins?
I'm going to go with Stafford, Puka, and Adams. Can I
There
do
you
that?
go. There you go. I forgot about them too. Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, we do have these like just amazing trios right now where like nobody else on the offense really matters. Like, it's just kind of cool that we're at this point right now. Like, if T. Higgins was playing this week, he'd probably be in our top 12 as well. It's kind of crazy to think that like half of the wide receiver ones this year are coming from 3 offenses.
By the way, Eagles fans, stay out of the comments. Don't. Let's not do this. Let's
I
not do
mean,
this.
here's the thing. Like, if they didn't have Saquon Barkley, if they were in like had a different play caller where they were forced to throw, not even forced to throw, but where they just chose to throw the way, yeah, they'd be in that discussion as well. But the reality is, it is a very low volume passing attack, and that's why we have Devonta Smith and AJ Brown as high end wide receiver 2s and not inside that top 12.
Can we? I'm sorry, I hate to do this. I'm going to put you on the spot. Can we go back and revisit your Chargers wide receiver room? Where would you have them now? It's a
That's a
different
tough
room
one.
now.
It is a different room. Quentin Johnson's been dealing with the injury. Keenan
Mhm.
Allen turned into an old moldy pumpkin. I
Still leading the team in
they're
targets.
still think they're a good trio. I mean, I'll still take like Keenan Allen, who's the wide receiver 3, over Jahan Dotson and Andre Yosevach and Is it Cavante Turpin? Is that the I don't even know who the wide receiver 3 is in Dallas. Like,
Jalen
maybe it's
Tolbert.
Jalen Tolbert, but I don't know. I like Turpin more than I like Tolbert.
Well, now I have to look.
I mean, I think on the depth chart it's Jalen Tolbert, but I think Cavante Turpin,
Actually, no, it's
he's
Turpin.
yeah, no.
It's Turpin. Yeah, yeah. Look at that. Look at that. All right, let's get back to real fantasy football talk that you guys are here for. Tier number 2. This is a bigger one. This is wide receivers 11 through 22. We got a few guys in this tier that are going to be playing on Thursday and Friday. So let's start with at 11, Chris Olave, then Tedrow McMillan, AJ Brown, Lad McConkey, Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, Justin Jefferson, Michael Wilson. It's real, y'all.
Yeah.
And it's spectacular. Stephon Diggs, Emeka Egbuka, Wandale Robinson, Jameson Williams. Really quick, just before we hop into the players that are on Thursday and Friday, Michael Wilson, is this just start him? Just start him every single week as your set and forget it wide receiver 2 until Marvin Harrison Jr. is back? Like Jacoby Brissett is just, he's also another guy you can start every single week. I've got a team with Jacoby Brissett and Justin Herbert, and I'm starting Jacoby Brissett over Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Again.
I mean, I saw Frank Amarante over at Rotoballer. He tweeted out yesterday or last week before the games kicked off that he was starting Michael Wilson ahead of Justin Jefferson and got so much pushback for it, as I'm sure you can imagine on Twitter. Well, Michael Wilson outscored Justin Jefferson for the second week in a row. I mean, it is wild what we are seeing here right now. Long term, I don't know what's going to happen with the Cardinals. Like, if and when Marvin Harrison Jr. returns, Kyler Murray is technically able to return in week 14. There's a lot of speculation out of Arizona that he has played his final snap for the Cardinals and they're going to move on this offseason. We don't know what to expect. If this is what we see going forward, a Jacoby Brissett-led offense and Marvin Harrison missing extended time, Michael Wilson is going to be a league winner, but the calculus is going to change a little bit once we have to put Marvin Harrison Jr. back in there. And if Kyler Murray returns, then it really changes for the worse.
Man, just insane to have a player
Can you
in the
imagine?
league.
Imagine if we knew we were having this conversation 3 months ago. Like, oh man, we really don't want Kyler Murray to return. This Jacoby Brissett offense has been so good for fantasy.
We don't want Marvin Harrison Jr. to come back. This Michael
Right.
Wilson's really taken off.
Jacoby
This-
Brissett and Michael Wilson outplaying Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, that's where we are.
I mean, they're outplaying Baker Mayfield and Emeka Egbuka now, who 2 months ago we were talking about rookie of the year and potential MVP. And
Yep.
here we are. Look at you, NFL, you dirty sons of. All right, let's keep going through this tier because we got both the Eagles wide receivers. We've got AJ Brown at 13, Devontae Smith at 15. Dave, what's the confidence level? Confidence meter 1 to 10 on Eagles passing offense right now, because it has been up and down, mostly down. And then you get like a squeaky wheel game, and then you get a big touchdown game for Devontae Smith. Where are you at with them?
I think you just got to keep starting them both. Like we say wide receiver 2s because they fall inside the top 24, but
There are 48
reality
wide
is-
receiver 2s in fantasy football.
right. And I, like looking at these rankings, I think once you get past Chris Olave, like Chris Olave is the last guy I'd kind of consider a wide receiver 2. I think from there on out, AJ Brown, Lad McConkey, Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers, Justin Jefferson, all of these guys are they feel more like wide receiver 3s than they do like wide receiver 2s, and you're putting them in your lineup. But like even when we're doing these rankings, like AJ Brown, and then you jump all the way down to like our next tier where we have Roma Dunze and Troy Franklin and Michael Pittman. And like, I don't feel that much better about putting AJ Brown in my lineup than I do over those guys. Like, it is just so flat once you get through that first like 12 to 15 receivers this year. So yeah, you're putting them in your lineup. You can have the big games, but again, as I said earlier in the show, you kind of are what your fantasy production says you are at a certain point in the season. Devonta Smith is outscoring AJ Brown. He has more of the team's air yard share. He has a deeper target depth. He has more targets. And even the crazy thing, he's got more yards after the catch, too. Like, he is besting AJ Brown in almost every single metric this year, and by a very, very slim margin. But at a certain point, like, I don't know if AJ Brown's hurt. I don't know if he is just washed, if the age is catching up to him, or what is going on. But Devonta Smith is kind of playing as the better receiver this year in Philadelphia.
And Bears secondary has been rough throughout the year. Like I know Deshaun Wright got himself an interception last week, but it was like thrown right at him. If we're being honest,
Leading the league in interceptions, Nashawn Wright out of nowhere. Like he's been making some spectacular plays.
He's been one of those guys. Like early in the season, he was struggling a ton. He's been one of those similar to Deron Bland a couple years ago, where he was like leading the league in interceptions, but also just getting smoked half the time.
Yep.
Like that's sort of what it is. One of those like make or break defensive backs, but it's a good matchup for the Eagles receivers. Like you said, Devontae Smith has been the guy leading the team in targets over the last few weeks here. AJ Brown, everything was sort of intentionally schemed up. We talked about that.
Hmm.
But Devontae Smith, even with that, still posted a season high in expected fantasy points last week. Like this is still, I think, out of the two, the player that I feel more confident with going forward. But there's something in me that keeps ranking AJ Brown higher. Like I
I
keep
know.
getting that little voice that tells me the upside is there. The upside is there. I don't know what it is.
And here's the weird thing with Devonta Smith too. He is outscoring AJ Brown on the year, but he only has one game with more than 20 PPR
That's the
points. Like it
thing,
has
man.
been just like steady, consistent wide receiver two value every single week, but there hasn't really been much of a ceiling. And you keep hoping with AJ Brown, like it's in his wheelhouse that he can have this 200-yard, two touchdown game, and that's why we're holding on to hope. But it just has not come to fruition this year.
Upside, he screamed into the clouds as he shook his fist. Let's talk about two other guys in this tier that are also going to be playing on Thanksgiving. Zay Flowers going up against the Bengals, and then Jamison Williams up against the Packers. Dave, you and I have Zay Flowers ranked quite a bit ahead of Jamison Williams here. Uh, Zay has not really popped off the way we have wanted him to. We haven't seen the touchdowns the way we've wanted to. He continues to lead the team in targets and be like the top guy, but that has not meant anything. And we've kind of seen Lamar Jackson struggling. Is this the get right game for Lamar and Zay against the Bengals?
I mean, we have seen historically Lamar Jackson just crushes Cincinnati when he gets to
Right.
face off against them. And I hope this is the get right game. Like he started the week as a full participant in practice for the first time in the last couple of weeks. So hopefully that's a sign that he's trending in the right direction. But watching that game last week, that is not the Lamar Jackson that I have grown
No.
to watch. He was like apprehensive. He didn't want to use his legs. Like even when he would kick it into second gear, like it just wasn't like the explosiveness wasn't there. And I get it. Like he's dealt with multiple injuries this year. That is tough to come back from. Like he's had an ankle, a foot, I think a hamstring. Like there have been multiple lower body injuries that he's dealing with this year. And with Zay Flowers, it's frustrating because to me, I hate to say this, but it feels so similar to Hollywood Brown all over again. Where you look at the underlying metrics and it's like this guy's top 10 in target share. He's got this great target depth. He can make plays after the catch. But for whatever reason, like it just doesn't translate to fantasy production. And I felt like we did this for 5 years with Marquise Brown, just saying like, this is the year. And it never happened. Zay Flowers has a very similar analytical profile, even a same college prospect profile. And it's kind of the same story now that like he's pulling the targets, he's making the plays, but he just doesn't score touchdowns.
There's just something that I don't think data can always capture. And like there's just times where there are going to be intangibles that we can't define through numbers that won't lend itself to target shares and to all the numbers that we love to look into. It's just not there. Like sometimes there's just
Right.
chemistry that's missing from players. And it's just not there. But I think, you and I, we still have him as a wide receiver 2 this week. And I think that's
Yeah.
where we can keep him because of the matchup, because we're expecting a get right game for Lamar. The other guy from this tier to talk about is Jamison Williams coming off of, weirdly to say, his highest snap share percentage of the season and then worst game of the season.
Dude, unreal.
Who would
Well,
have
you could say
thunk
his
it?
worst game, but it's the second time he scored 0 points. So just
Sure.
tied his worst
This
game.
I think this one was more upsetting though because there had been two big
Uh,
time boom games and you're like, all right, we're here, we've made it. And nobody looked at Jameson Williams last week and was like, well, I'm not going to start that guy. Everyone started him, and then
a
he gives you this
brutal
goose
drop
egg.
too. Late in the game,
Yeah.
like was wide open, separated. Goff put it on him, and he just like ball hit his hands, and then he just like as he was pulling the ball in, just like
Ah.
scooped it and threw it out of bounds. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, like
Had a
just
play called back as well.
yeah.
Like there's,
Jameson Williams experience. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's fun. We're having so much fun.
I got it. Jameson Williams and Jameis Winston together.
There you go.
That would be sweet music for
Magic.
the NFL.
Yes.
Sweet,
Yes.
sweet music. Okay, so he's got a tough matchup against the Green Bay secondary. We are in. It's funny. I can't believe I'm going to say this. We are indoors, which means there's always the possibility of Jared Goff having himself a big game. Is that playing at
I mean,
all into your
we're
rankings?
we're both going right back to it. Like, I think a lot of people would see that 0 point game and say, like, all right, out of my top 30. And you and I are both still holding it down, getting him inside the top 25. You know, you live by the Jameson and you die by the Jameson. And we may have died last week, but hoping for resuscitation in week 13.
I was about to say, said the alcoholic. Dave's not an alcoholic, guys. Just Jameson. It was a joke.
No, I started
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs last week and lost in my home
You
league
are so
because
brave.
Jameson Williams. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to keep starting him. Whatever, variance. We love it.
Ah, fantasy football. You're a cruel mistress. All right, next tier. There's going to be wide receivers 23 through 31. Khalil Shakir, Michael Pittman Jr., Rome Odunze, Troy Franklin, Jawan Jennings, Cortland Sutton, Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, Christian Watson. And for those of you that are listening that are like, dude, I can't keep track of all those names. You said them too fast. Head on over to YouTube. We've got all the names listed for you right there. Or head on over to footballguys.com. Check out our rankings. You can see our rankings or everyone else's rankings if you really don't like us, but you like to hate listen. Just do that. All right. Dave, from this group, we have two players that are going to be playing on Thursday and Friday, Rome Odunze and Christian Watson. This is weird to start to have Rome Odunze down this low when earlier in the season it was all but certain every week. You were just putting him in as a top 10 wide receiver. Now, he didn't make the top 24 for us this week.
Yeah, and this is something that we did talk about a lot in the offseason. There are a lot of mouths to feed in this Bears offense, and Ben Johnson wants to spread the ball around. Now, the weird thing is, like, we're not seeing one person step up and be Rome Odunze, doing what Rome Odunze is. It's just that there's just enough of everybody else. Colston Loveland's getting a little bit more involved. Luther Burden's getting a little bit more involved. DJ Moore has been doing his thing over the last couple of weeks, and the ball's getting spread really thin. And I think this is great for Caleb Williams, like, to be able to not have to rely on one player, find the open guy, get the ball to him. Frustrating for Rome Odunze, but I think this is kind of where he needs to be at this point, just kind of in that back end wide receiver 2 discussion, because, you can only look at the usage metrics so much. And this is, again, like the early season bias that we talk about. A lot of people are still holding on to hope that Rome Odunze is this wide receiver 1, when the reality is that since the bye, he hasn't been anywhere near that.
No, and I'm a little worried this week too with the matchup going up against Quinyon Mitchell, who has just been a super. It's crazy. The Eagles piss me off so much because how do they do this every draft? Like a good player just starts falling down the draft board, and they're like, "Well, we'll take that guy right there. Yeah, he's really good." And Quinyon Mitchell absolutely crushed the pre-draft process, and he was one of the best corners at the best corner at the Senior Bowl by many people. He was regarded as the best corner in the draft. Then he fell to them. Starts as a rookie. Has some bumps and bruises here and there, but plays well. And now this year, he has just fully taken off, Dave. Like, he is just shut down material when he's out there. And he'll be matched up against Rome Odunze this game. That has me a bit worried.
And it's not just him. It's Dory Jackson and Cooper DeJean. Like, they just have a really, really good secondary here. So they also have a really good front seven that can stop the run game. So, shocker, Eagles, good team top to bottom, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, the Super Bowl champions are good at football.
Yeah.
But the defense has been playing better as of late. Like, this was a team that was struggling earlier in the season. Now the injuries are coming undone. The defense is gelling. Vic Fangio's got them playing some really good ball. Other guy in here, Christian Watson, Green Bay Packers wide receiver, Dave. It's a weird time in the Green Bay receiving room, but Christian Watson has had himself some big games. Romeo Doubs is a guy that we'll probably talk about in just a little bit. But Watson's been the better fantasy performer as of late, and he's been getting a lot of intermediate usage. The Lions play a lot of man coverage. So this is going to be something where Christian Watson can win against man. Like, this actually plays really well into Watson's strength. So I think he just remains one of those guys. He's a wide receiver 3, but you love the upside that's there. You actually have him ranked higher than me. So no, you have him. We're the same. We both have him at wide receiver 30. Yeah.
I have him higher than DK Metcalf, which was weird to see in my rankings this week.
Yeah, I got there and I was like, I can't do that just yet, but I'm close. So what has you? Are you feeling the same way about Christian Watson?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think you hit it on the head that he's been seeing some of those intermediate targets where early in his career he was like strictly a deep threat, which is fun because that's when you're seeing those big huge blow up games. But if he can start getting some of that other work as well, then that can raise the floor for him, which has always kind of been the big issue here. So we're just seeing this steady increase. 3 weeks ago he had 2 receptions, 4 receptions the next week, 5 receptions the next week. We just keep seeing that tick up as he gets further removed from this ACL injury. This is also one of the first times that I have Christian Watson ranked ahead of Romeo Dubs. Like, to me, Christian Watson is the guy that you want to start here. Looks like Jaden Reed might be back. That's another one that, like, we don't have the full picture on yet, but it'll be interested to see what happens when Jaden Reed's also back in the fold.
Do you trust the one? I don't think he comes back on a short week like this
Probably not, no.
because the Packers are always super weird about that. But even if he were to come back, I don't trust the Packers this week to do anything with him. Like
Yeah,
I'd expect a bunch of pomp and circumstance. Jaden Reed is back, and then he's going to get a 14% snap share, 2 touches, and we get Ricky Pearsall. Like that's
keep him stashed on your IR spot if you
yep.
can, because here's the one thing. I think the Tucker Craft injury does open a possibility for Jaden Reed to be very fantasy relevant, because Jaden Reed can't make it on the field on 2 wide receiver sets. But when he's able to play in 11 personnel out of the slot where he gets these free releases where he can catch the ball off the middle of the field, that's when we see Jaden Reed doing really good things. And I think that without Tucker Craft, they're going to be relying on a lot more 11 personnel, which just means more snaps and more routes for Jaden Reed. So, yeah, definitely want to take a wait and see approach when he does return. But he's a guy that I was shocked to see was available in a lot of leagues. I picked him up in some last week, picked him up in some more this week. I've just got him stashed on my IR spot to see what happens over the next few weeks.
Okay, let's do this. We've got 2 tiers here that we did kind of small, each of them. It's wide receivers 32 through 46. We're just going to list a bunch of players here, but we're going to talk about the ones that are playing on Thursday and Friday. Okay, so at 32, we've got Darnell Mooney, then Alec Pierce, Quentin Johnston, Jacoby Myers, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, Romeo Dobbs, Ricky Pearsall, Trey Tucker, Andre Yosavash, Chimere DK, Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins, Parker Washington. So let's do this, Dave. DJ Moore and Luther Burden, the Bears receivers. We talked about Rome Dunze being a tough guy to start this week. Is there a little, even though we had these guys ranked behind them, is there a little more excitement maybe about these guys because the expectations aren't as high? Do they become sort of the high upside flex appeal guys?
Yeah, and I think that's it. Expectations. Rome Odunze, you're definitely starting him ahead of these other guys, but you're not feeling good about the wide receiver one you thought you had, or DJ Moore was a guy that, a month ago we were saying you might want to drop this guy. Like, I don't even know if he's still rosterable at this point. And then he has the game with a couple touchdowns. He's getting a little bit more involved. He has consistently been second on the team in routes run. So I can't put him ahead of Luther Burden quite yet, because Burden is still very clear the wide receiver 3 here. But DJ Moore, yeah, I mean, same as all the other guys in these tiers, right? Like, we don't feel great about any of them, but if you're in a position where, you didn't invest heavily in wide receiver in the draft and you're looking for a wide receiver 3 in your deep lineups or a flex play, I think DJ Moore, we know the upside is there any week in this offense, and it's a tough matchup, but his after the catch abilities always give him that, upside on a weekly basis.
I'm going to say this. I know you mentioned that Adoree Jackson is playing better, but he has also been a guy that has notoriously given up a lot of big plays.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with Luther Burden playing more on the outside, he can get faced up against Adoree Jackson in this. I'm going to call it now. I think Luther Burden gets himself a big touchdown on Adoree Jackson this week, and he becomes the flex play that might win people a lot of weeks this week.
It's possible, yeah.
Anything's possible, Dave. There's a world. There's a world. We're bringing that back? We're gonna start doing that again?
There's a world. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, that was a lot of 2024 prospect talk. There's a world.
It's just a lot of hedging our bets and stuff. There's a world where this happens, but there's also a world where it doesn't. All right, other guys in these groupings here. Xavier Worthy, I think I've lost all confidence, Dave. Like, not that we had much to begin with, but he's not even a wide receiver 3 for us in our rankings, and I don't want to start him ever.
Remember this offseason when I was saying that Xavier Worthy was fancy Wan'Dale Robinson? Turns out Wan'Dale Robinson is fancy as Xavier Worthy.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, it's bad. And I will say, like, he probably has a torn labrum. He's probably playing through an injury that he shouldn't be playing through right now. He's dealing with an ankle injury as well. But this is the 3rd time I've said it on the show. I need a new, better saying, but at a certain point, you are what your fantasy production says you are. And this guy has, like, never been more than a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. I've talked about it so much. He has one game with 100 plus receiving yards in his entire career. And that came in the Super Bowl when he got a 60 whatever yard touchdown, down 3 scores when they were playing in. I mean, I get it. He's fast. He's on the Chiefs, playing with Patrick Mahomes. Like,
so he must be Tyreek Hill.
And that's it. Like, we're holding on to this hope that he's Tyreek Hill, but he's probably a lot more Kadarius Toney than he is Tyreek Hill, unfortunately.
That's the thing, man. Like Worthy has never been a guy that wins contested catches, and I'm sorry, like this goes back to his time in Texas. He was never actually a really good deep ball tracker. Like that's
Right.
not what he was good at. He was good at winning on quick slants. He was good at winning on screenplays that were blocked magnificently in the Texas offense. Like there was a lot of what what Texas was doing is a lot of what the Dolphins have been doing and getting
Mhm.
guys into space and on crossers, and that just hasn't been happening with the Chiefs. Like they have been.
Well, it
I'll say
has been, but they have Rashi Rice doing that
that's what I'm saying.
way
Like,
better
yeah,
than Xavier Worthy ever can.
exactly. And that's the only thing is like we talked about this in the offseason. Xavier Worthy was solid in the Rasheed Rice role. But you know who's even better at the Rasheed Rice role? Rasheed Rice. Like, and
Right.
that's what it is. Like, that's just what we're going to keep seeing each week. This is a good matchup, so there is possibility for an explosive
Right.
play, and I think that's always there with Xavier Worthy, which is why people will hold on to him and start him as a wide receiver 3 or as a flex play. That it's there. I just got to say, like, I think we're at the point where the consistent downside of Xavier Worthy outweighs the potential pop off that could be there. Like there are other guys on this list that I'm like, I don't know, man. I ranked him lower, but I'd kind of rather start Luther Burden over Xavier Worthy at this point. Like that's just where my confidence level is.
Yeah. And you do talk about the matchup, and I think that this is a show where we talk about weekly rankings. So we have to talk about the matchup here, and it is a good matchup against the Cowboys. And I feel like, if you're not starting Xavier Worthy this week, just cut him. Because like if you're not going to start him this week, when are you ever
Yeah.
going to start him? Like this is the matchup to start him if you've got him. I know he's been, benched and started and on IR and dealing with like there's been so many things you've had to deal with throughout with Xavier Worthy this season, but like this week against the Cowboys, this is as good as it gets. They give up more big plays than any other defense out there. He's got the speed to get behind them. It's an island game where we see these fun plays typically get rolled out. So if you're gonna start him, do it this week, and if not, sabotage drop him and let somebody else deal with the headache.
You and I, last player here, you and I both have Andre Yosavash as a guy that is just outside of our top 40, but I think he should have some sort of consideration this week with T. Higgins out. If Joe Burrow looking like he is back in a game against the Ravens where their secondary hasn't been great consistently on a weekly basis. So I know we have him ranked a little bit lower, but I think there's some. Is it weird to say that I think there's a better floor and some better upside here with Andre Yosavash than there is for? I mean, at least I think there's a better floor for Yosavash than there is for Pearsall at this point, because Pearsall we're seeing a zero floor on these weeks, which I hate to say, but that's just
Yeah.
it's the weirdness of him returning from injury. Because of the offense and because of the role with no Higgins, I think there's probably a higher ceiling than there is with Chimere DK, who's right next to him. Like
Yeah.
this, I kind of like Yosavash this week.
Yeah. I mean, comparing Xavier Worthy and Andre Yosavash, corporate wants you to tell the difference between these two pictures.
Same picture.
The same picture. Yeah. I mean, like, the wide receiver 2 on a good offense who can potentially pop for a big play. And if not, you're staring at 2 catches for 13 yards in your lineup saying, why did I do this to myself? It's really what it is. Like you're hoping to get score a big play. And I'd argue that, Xavier Worthy has the better matchup this week. So I'd lean towards him. We also see like Mitchell Tinsley was involved an annoying
He was
amount last
good.
week.
Like,
He is, yeah.
he was annoyingly good last
Yeah.
week.
He's had a few touchdowns this year. Like he's somebody that shout out Dan Hendry, who is a Bengals fan and pays very close attention to the Bengals beat. And he was telling me last week, he's like, everybody's over their skis about Andre Yosavage. He's like, Mitchell Tinsley is the guy that I think people should be talking about. And I moved him way up my rankings, kind of put him as a last minute flex play that you can rely on. And he caught a touchdown. So we might see Tinsley be the guy again. If there wasn't a Tinsley in the picture right now, we'd kind of have to force the usage to Yosavash. But based on what we've seen from Tinsley this year, I do worry a little bit about getting Yosavash in my lineups.
Well,
I think
and
it's going to be Mike Gesicki is the beneficiary who came back last week and immediately led the team in targets. And we saw this last year when T. Higgins was out. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was like a 4 or
Mhm.
6 game stretch that T. Higgins missed last year. Mike Gesicki was a top 3 tight end over that stretch. Like
Yep.
we see him kind of in this weird split with Noah Fant so far this year. But when T. Higgins isn't out there, we're going to see Mike Gesicki running routes on almost every single play. He's going to be pulling targets. I think if you're really looking for the streamer this week, it's not Yosavash, it's not Tinsley. I think it's Mike Gesicki.
And I think I like that better too, because just thinking of like we've been talking about this, quarterbacks going to what makes them comfortable. And you get Joe Burrow back in there and he's looking at, okay, I got Jamar, but I also got Gesicki, who I've been comfortable with. Yosavash has kind of been a guy for him. Tinsley, I don't know. Like
Right.
we can say what we want, but I don't know if there's been any in-game reps with them or how many practice reps they've even had together. Like Tinsley, of course, there's been run with Flacco and with other guys out on the field, but yeah, I think I like that. I like the Gesicki call out there. Well, we over delivered again after under promising. We said short show, and here we are at nearly an hour. But what we want to do, man, is just thank everybody. We are so thankful for all of you that watch and listen. It's such a good week of reflection, and we are so thankful to do what we love. Dave, I'm thankful for you, man. I'm thankful for football guys and for every person that enjoys this show and allows us to have these jobs where we get to do this for a living and have fun and talk football and hopefully help some people win their fantasy leagues.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody, make sure to spend that time. If you miss a football game this week, it's not the end of the world. You can go back and you can watch the recaps. You can catch up on the news later or something like that. I think that's something that I've really been trying to do over the last couple of weeks here as we get closer to the holidays. Is cherish that time with friends and family and whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. I have Hulu Live TV. I can record games and watch them after the fact. NFL Plus gives
No
you the
free
ability
ads.
to watch the condensed games afterwards as well. Like, spend time with family. That's what means a lot this time of year.
Well, we're glad that you guys have spent some time with us today on this episode. As always, I want to thank you for watching or listening all the way through. For myself, for Dave, we'll see you next time. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Adios.